Hello there.
We're now unmuted.
Okay, we're gonna start the meeting. Welcome to the October, still October meeting, October 2025 meeting of the Health and Human Services Committee of Committee 7. I'm Coughlin, co-chair with my co-chair Saralee Evans. And I can't really say we have a packed agenda, but we have a very important agenda item. But before we get to that, first we have to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
I think
If
it's
I had a thought about something that would be nice to add to the agenda to talk about at the
Yeah.
end, do I have to tell you now? I mean, do I have to do it?
yeah, after we voted to approve the agenda.
Well, I want to add to it, I don't want to take away from
Well, isn't there a new business?
Yeah,
Agenda?
can you do
it.
it in new business? Or we have new business and old business. Couple of announcements.
But there's
before-
no business then.
Yeah, no.
Oh, Shelley.
Yeah, somebody mute him. Couple of announcements. Michael Molinari who was on this committee, is going to no longer be on the committee
Oh,
because of his newborn. I think he's still secretary, and I think
Yeah.
technically he doesn't have to be on any other committee. So this was too much of a stretch. We're going to
let's
miss
give him
him.
a applause because he was a wonderful member.
Yeah. And he didn't rule out coming back after his kids in college. So. But I won't be here. But and also we have some really good news. I told some of you all by email, but we were successful in our application to get a community planning fellow. These
Here,
are
here.
these are graduate students from different schools in the area, NYU, the New School, Columbia, who get paired up with community boards and assist them with or work on projects that they deem worthy.
Is this
And-
foundation for the city of New York?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
It's the
So-
fun for the city.
So
I couldn't get out of those emails whether that person would be on this committee or a committee.
this committee,
Oh, this committee.
yeah,
what
yeah. So
project did
because
they get
what
work
happened was we made an application and we had a proposal for the funding, which was actually both Michael and Shelley came up with this idea independently of each other, which means it's probably a pretty good idea. But the idea is to come up, is to compile a directory of all the services in our district, and social services, and also link it to federal funding and try to figure out what is going to be really hit by cutbacks in federal funding. So this is going to, this is what her name is Polly Zhu. I think that's how you pronounce it, XU. And Polly is a graduate student at the new school. And we have to set up a meeting to talk to her, and I don't know, Shelley, would you be interested in
Working with
her?
Yes, I would.
Okay, that'd be great. You've been clamoring, asking for this for a long time, so that would be terrific.
I think it'll be having this, we can use it for so many purposes.
Yeah.
Okay. Including funding issues, because we may be, doing our district needs and budget, but there's a state and there's a federal government and there are private foundations and so on.
I'm not sure there's the federal government.
Well, you never know what people will fund, and we have. I would tell people we have senators, we have Congress people. Veto is very hard to sustain. Okay, so let's look optimistic in the.
Okay, so that's that. So I think we're ready to go to the main event, which is the presentation and discussion on a shelter for homeless women, which is soon to be opening on West 59th Street. And we have a number of people lined up who are going to speak, both from Project Renewal and from the Department of Social Services. And then we have a number of people who signed up to speak. And we also got a lot of, probably about 10 comments on our Google form. And I sent those around to the committee members. But as far as I could tell, they were all very positive.
There's one person from the community
One
here, and
person
he's
from-
very
We have
positive.
one person from the community too. So let me turn it over to Project Renewal and DSS.
Thank you. I'm Eric Rosenbaum. I'm the president and CEO of Project Renewal, and I'm joined here by Jamie Madden, who is our Chief Operating Officer, and Katie Bauer, who is our Chief Housing and Shelter Officer. We're thrilled to be here to talk to you about the project, and I appreciate the presence and support of our colleagues at DSS as well, and our government relations firm and Toby from there. Do you guys want to introduce yourselves?
Yeah, sure. I'll start. Good afternoon or good evening. I'm Jamar Hooks, Deputy Commissioner for Intergovernmental and Legislative Affairs at DSS, which includes HRA, the Human Resources Administration, and DHS, the Department of Homeless Services. I'll pass to Marcia. And I see that there are 3 Marcia Horns logged in currently. So my colleagues all can change or rename yourself so that your name isn't Marcia Horn. So please feel free to.
Hi, good evening, everyone, and thank you so much, Tamar. Marcia Horn, Manhattan Borough Director with Department of Social Services and Intergovernmental Legislative Affairs. Yes, there are many Marcias, and I thank everyone for logging on. I'll pass it on to Rosie.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Rosie Gellin. I'm the Assistant Commissioner for Single Adult Shelter Operation. And I'm sorry, I will be changing my name.
Rosie's a beautiful name.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hi, I'm going to jump in. It's Yvonne Ballard, Associate Commissioner with Shelter Operations for DHS. I don't see, I can't tell who else is on.
Toby?
Good evening, everyone. Toby Jayasimi from CASIR. As Eric mentioned earlier, we provide government relations services and support Project Renewal across their various portfolios. Thank you for being with us tonight.
So, let me get started by thanking the community board for inviting us to be here. This project has been several years in the making. I think it was 2020 when we first presented the project here. So it's 5 years ago, and we're getting closer to an opening this winter. I walked the site this morning. It's pretty impressive. I don't think I've ever seen a shelter. Well, first of all, there aren't that many shelters that were built brand new for the purpose of shelter. This one was designed exactly for its purpose, which is unusual and special. And we're excited. We have a presentation, and I'm going to turn it over to Jamie and Katie to walk you through the shelter. I think most of you are familiar enough with Project Renewal, so I'll just give a couple words about us. We've been around for 58 years. We're one of the larger social service agencies in New York, providing shelter, housing, medical care, and job opportunities to homeless New Yorkers, often people who have co-occurring mental illness or substance use disorders. Today, we operate 7 shelters for the city, housing close to 1,000 people a night. This shelter will add another 200 beds to our capacity. And we also operate permanent supported housing throughout the city, mostly in Manhattan and the Bronx. 7 buildings that we own and have developed, plus some scatter site units. It's about 1,200 apartments of permanent and transitional supported housing. We're a federally qualified health center providing primary care, psychiatry, substance use treatment. We have a dental clinic, all geared towards providing services both to our clients and to members of the general community. And we have some award-winning employment programs, including a culinary arts training program, and a recently launched program that leads to jobs with Health and Human Services as psychiatric technicians, filling critical vacancies in psychiatric hospitals throughout the system. So with that, I will turn it over to Jamie and Katie.
Thanks, Eric. And I'm going to attempt to share the presentation now. So let me just make sure this shows up. Everybody see that?
Yes.
Wonderful. So we have a brief agenda tonight, but I think we'll probably get into some conversations about each of these bullets. So we'll go over a program description, just let you know what we are going to be doing at the shelter. Katie will talk pretty in depth around some of our staff and programming and the supports and services we offer. We'll talk a little bit about the community engagement we've done so far and what's planned, and then we'll go over the timeline at a high level. So that's our agenda for this evening. This is an actual picture of the site right here that Eric took recently when he did the walkthrough. And for this project, we own the building and we serve as a co-developer. So it's a 9-story building. We have a medical clinic that is street facing on the first floor. We also have a kitchen that's going to be serving 3 meals a day plus snacks to our residents and is going to be probably hosting some of those interns that Eric talked about at the culinary training program. We have a wide range of social services available that Katie will talk through more in depth, with dedicated programming space for occupational therapy, recreational therapy, outdoor space, and lots of intentional areas for programming. And when Eric talks about this being a purpose-built shelter, I think that's one of the main things that we've been able to integrate and ensure that we have is the space to do the programming that our residents require. So this is a 200-bed shelter. It's for single women, and it's in a dorm room style. So that's the basic overview of the program itself. And now we'll go into the staffing and programming. So I'll turn it over to you, Katie, to talk through this piece.
Thanks, Jamie and Eric, and thanks everyone for having us. I'll just go through kind of our buckets of staffing quickly, and then we'll go to the next slide and talk a little bit more about the services. But our team is really divided into a few key areas. We will have our social service team, which includes our shelter director, our director of social services. We're also going to have a dedicated staff member to provide intake. We will have your traditional team leaders, case managers, housing specialists, entitlements, recreation, and an admin assistant. Our operations team is the core of the building. They're there 24/7 and working with our clients day and night, providing them with their most basic needs. That will include our assistant director, our shift supervisors, and residential aides. We will have one full-time occupational therapist. We will also have that federally qualified health center, which will have both primary care and psychiatric care. And our building maintenance and kitchen team will also be key in, supporting our clients and their needs. And then lastly, we will have contracted security that will include 7 guards and 1 supervisor, 24/7, 365. And we also want to note that we have 98 cameras placed throughout the building as part of our security measures. And then just to talk a little bit more in detail about what our services are outside of the names of different titles, I really want to hammer home the importance of the team that we have there. Every client will have a case manager. That case manager from day one is going to be working with the clients on their individual needs. They will be connecting closely with our housing specialists who are working to identify appropriate housing and submit housing packages. They will work seamlessly with our healthcare clinic, which is on site, because the healthcare team will provide crucial documents to expediting the housing package, which only expedites their placement out of shelter. Sorry. We will also have an occupational therapist full-time, which we're really excited about. Our OTs have been integral in providing clients with key life skills that support them in their transition from emergency shelter into permanent housing. Because we have this purpose-built space, they also have dedicated space within the building to run additional programming, which is going to be really engaging for our clients because they're going to have opportunities to engage both in indoor and outdoor activities through our OT program in partnership with our recreation team as well. And then we will have your more traditional primary care and psychiatric services that will be run through our clinic, which again, really just provide our clients with wraparound services to meet their needs so that we can work with them, to attain stable housing. And I think I'm turning it back over to Jamie.
Thank you.
Thanks, Katie. So as I mentioned earlier, we wanted to talk a little bit about community engagement. We will be having a community advisory board that will commence on the second month after the shelter opens. Sorry, there's a typo on that slide. I will fix that. And we will have several slots that will be open to recommendations from the community. So we'll come back to this community board probably, a month after the shelter is opened to really determine if you have people that would be a good fit for our community advisory board. We will have a 24/7 number that will be provided closer to opening. It will be a key contact that the community can use if there are any concerns or if there's a need to get in touch with us and our leadership team 24/7. As Katie mentioned, we have security guards and program staff that will do hourly runs and we'll work with our residents to make sure that they're engaged in activities within the building. And we talked a lot about what those activities might look like in terms of the occupational therapy, movement towards housing packets, and really helping the folks achieve the goals we're laying out with them. And then, of course, we have a good neighbor policy, which we remind our clients to adhere and be responsible members of the community. And we outline key expectations regarding noise, loitering, littering, and possession of drugs and alcohol. In addition to this, which happens kind of after the shelter opens, we've also been working with Toby and other members of our relations team to engage members of the community that are nearby. So we spoke to the Heschel School today, and we also are going to be reaching out to a number of other schools on the block, but also in the neighborhood, as well as we have connected with Mount Sinai and have a connection there with their psychiatric team. And we are also working with other community members. The condominium that is right next to us, Eric, I can't remember the name of it right now. We've engaged to them. And so we are trying to do our due diligence. Sorry, go ahead.
The Element.
The Element, yes, we've spoken with the Element. And so we're trying to do our due diligence to engage community members and answer questions directly with them. And we're happy to take suggestions from this board as well if there are names you think we should add to our list. And then finally, the timeline. So as Eric mentioned, we started this project about 5 years ago, and we are getting very close to the opening of our shelter, which we're very excited about. So we're looking at late 25, early 26 winter, and we can certainly update the community board as that date gets closer. And so that concludes our formal presentation, but I am sure that people have questions or comments, and so we're happy to kind of take open comments now.
Yeah, I would like to know about what is the dorm style living arrangement mean?
Sure. So our sleeping floors range from 5 to a max of 9 people. The majority of our sleeping dorms are between 5 and 8, but we do have a couple dorms with 9.
One question I have is what percentage of the staff will be female as well?
Did you hear that?
Yeah, what percentage of the staff will be females?
Yeah.
I don't know that we know that yet, Katie, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I think we're still in the staffing up process. So we can't answer that at this moment.
What do you intend though? When you're hiring?
Not discriminatory if you like down if that you can say quota for with Kenny. Like I don't know. You can. I assume maybe you can, but you're right. It's not government. You're right.
I think, Eric, because it is a government contract, we have to abide by equal opportunity hiring rules, right? That would be my kind of initial answer to that. But I guess I wonder, is there a question underneath that about? Go ahead, yeah.
I think we can say that our typical staffing pattern skews female, except in maintenance and residential aides. Katie, we operate another women's shelter. Yeah.
A question, since many of the women who end up in shelter system have been victims of domestic abuse and other issues like that, will there be specialists available with backgrounds in those areas to deal with the trauma and the transition, and along with that, in terms of security, in addition to internal security, perimeter security, for a number of reasons, but also because the previous abusers tend to come around.
I think related to your question around trained professionals, and I appreciate your acknowledgement of the trauma that exists there. We will have several licensed professionals as part of the team, both in our healthcare clinic. Occupational therapy is also a licensed profession. Additionally, we have a very robust onboarding process for all of our employees to try to best equip them with the skills that they need entering the shelter. That includes trauma-informed care, that includes, basics of mental health, that includes de-escalation techniques. And I think we really commit ourselves to continuing to provide a learning environment for all of our staff, and we'll be really attuned to the uniqueness of serving women. I think to answer the question about external, the security guards will do kind of a building to building walk. Our team will also be outside, doing hourly runs. And there was also, just while talking about security, I saw a question in the chat that just kind of aligns, which is the policy around curfew. The curfew is 11 p.m. until 6 a.m. And if clients do not make it back by curfew, they are kind of discharged from the bed, but if we have another bed available, they would be rebedded with collaboration with DHS and vacancy control. Jamie and Eric, I don't know if there's other pieces you want to add on to.
Can I add a couple of things?
Please.
So not to say that there are not people in our general population, in our general shelters that are survivors of domestic violence, because there are, but the city has a separate system, a domestic violence system that's managed and operated by the Human Resources Administration. So that system specifically caters to survivors of domestic violence. So in addition to when they are placed in that system, in the HRA system, there's safety precautions taken into account. So we consider the place where they're coming from. So if they're coming from the Bronx, they're probably going to be placed in Brooklyn or Staten Island, somewhere where their abuser is not in close proximity. So there are a specific shelter designated for survivors of domestic violence. But like Katie said, we expect that there will be survivors in this shelter as well as across our system, and so we'll take the necessary precautions to keep them safe.
But this is not a designated domestic violence shelter.
Right. Thank you.
We have 2 questions on Zoom, so if that's
Why don't we maybe finish with the committee questions,
Yeah.
and then we're going to finish with our committee questions and then go to the questions and comments on Zoom.
Is this officially classified as a safe haven?
No.
No. Okay. And one more question: is curfew only permitted to be missed one night? And if they miss one night, they lose the bed completely, or does it go by the standard 3-night rule?
I can ask Yvonne and Rosie to jump in, but once someone misses curfew for one night, they are discharged out of that bed. It's kind of depending on vacancies across the system. If we have another bed that becomes available, we may rebed them in conjunction with vacancy control, or they may be sent to another bed within the system. But Rosie and Yvonne, feel free to jump in on this.
So hi, I just wanted to jump in and let you know too, the shelter system runs and operates on what we call an official shelter policy. So clients that or individuals that are assigned to a shelter and say they leave, that bed is still theirs. Not the bed, but the shelter. There is still their official shelter for up to 365 days. That doesn't mean that when the individual returns, if they're gone for like 3-4 months or weeks, if there's a bed available, then the staff is expected to engage, and they may, if there's a bed available, they may be issued that bed, or if there's a underlying reason where the client might not feel safe or the client just doesn't want to stay at that shelter, we will move with the assistance of Project Renewal to assign that client to another shelter.
Is there a time limit that women can stay in this shelter?
Well, the time limit is up to when we contract out and work with our providers, it is expected that within 9 months that we are going to meet the goal of moving that client into independent living and back into independence. If that doesn't happen, it may be extended because of, extenuating circumstances, the type of unit they need, if they're ADA and they need an ADA compliant bed, if they're in a wheelchair or something like that, then that may take a little longer. But for the most part, the average length of stay in a shelter will be like 9 to 12 months.
Jennifer,
That was my question. Thank you.
Thank you.
Are the services available all day, or do people have to leave the shelter during the day? I know it's policy in the shelter that I work near. And then the second question is, how do people get assigned? Will people get assigned to the shelter? Is it going to be, geographic proximity, luck? It seems like, everybody would want to stay at a place like this. So how do you manage that compared to of the other, and just kind of it seems like the quality of the shelter is different than at least the physical facility is different than a lot of the ones that are already exist already.
Sure. Regarding if clients have to leave, we do not mandate that clients leave the building. We expect that clients will leave the building throughout the day to engage in other activities, programs, employment, job search, etc. But we're not kicking them out and locking the doors at any hours throughout the day. They are welcome to engage in our community spaces and the programming we have, attend a healthcare appointment. There are times where the dorms are closed for cleaning, but that's just a necessity of cleaning the dorms, but they are not asked to leave the building during those times. We will have social services on site 7 days per week because it's really important that our team is there seven days per week and engaging with clients and providing support all of the days of the week, because we recognize shelter is not a Monday through Friday operation. Regarding assignment, and again, Rosie and Yvonne, feel free to jump in, but all of the shelters are screened, so our referrals come to us either through the intake process or through a transfer from another shelter site.
I think you answered that well, Katie.
You did answer it well, Katie. And I just want to say that you said that there's a shelter near you where folks have to leave. The policy of DHS is that folks do not have to leave during the day. They are asked to leave their dorms, as Katie mentioned, for cleaning, but they're not asked to leave the shelter. During that time, they can go to recreation, jobs, search, other type of things that they need to be doing.
I do want to add too, there are such things as we call passes. So like if someone is infirmed and, they're on medication that makes them drowsy and they need to go back into their room to lay down, there are passes. The staff is engaging with the client to ascertain all of that. And they may be issued a pass to stay in their dorm during that time and maybe just step out for the short period of time that it would take to clean just their bed area.
Louisa?
Are there community rooms or recreation, someplace where within the building, somebody could go and play cards, read a book, do nothing, watch television?
Yes, there are several spaces, both indoor and outdoor, where people can go and participate in recreational activities. This building is unique because we have an outdoor terrace on the second floor where people will be able to engage in therapeutic gardening activities and things like that. And the occupational therapy program, which Project Renewal is really proud of, is pretty unique to us. And it really they map out both group activities, but also recreational activities that our residents can participate in, so that they feel like there are things to do throughout their day that are beneficial to them. But there's also spaces where people can go and have quiet time.
That was my question.
I'll also add that the outdoor space is supervised. It's not open at all hours for people to go.
Are all services on site, or are there any that are off site?
So the healthcare services, the social services, the recreational and occupational, those are all on site. Eric mentioned earlier our workforce development program, which some of our residents choose to participate in. That we do not have a location on site for that service, but we will have representatives who are able to come to the site to speak to that, and also the folks that live there are welcome to come down to our main office and engage in those activities.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. I just had a question. This is not judgmental, but there are a lot of folks who use tobacco or vape or things like that. And at one of the facilities near me, I'm not complaining. It's just obviously you can't do that near any building entrance in the city. So what happens is that people go across the street and set up a little informal area. It's not a problem for me, but I can imagine it could be a little bit of an issue for the community. Is that something that you guys are planning ahead for?
Yeah, so that's part of the good neighbor policy where we try to educate people around not just the building itself, but the community that they are coming into and expected kind of behaviors in that community. We also do have case managers and other folks on the team, residential aides that engage with our residents if they see them participating in those behaviors, essentially, right? Katie, I don't know if you'd want to add anything else.
I'm not trying to come down harshly on the behaviors at all.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to be realistic about where that's gonna happen, and not to, like I said, get people in trouble, but just to be realistic about what planning, if any, there is going to be around that.
Katie, do you want to speak a little bit more to like what how we would respond to that on a daily basis if someone is smoking outside? What do we actually do?
I mean, generally on a day-to-day basis, if it's, you know, a client who perpetually is engaging in that behavior, there's definitely going to be constant engagement and case conferencing with the client and the larger social service team. There's also, you know, a group of staff who are going to be pulling clients back into the building. Hey, we just started this group on this floor. Hey, we're about to do this. Or, you know, there's an open slot in the clinic to get your psych eval done. I mean, we're going to do our best to continue to outreach our clients and engage them in, you know, meaningful activities that support their goal of housing.
I had a couple of questions. In the beginning, you mentioned that the buildings is co-developed. Could you explain a little bit more about what that means and who the other party is? And also, what if somebody wants to or is offered housing placement, but it's not somewhere where they want to go, or for whatever reason they turn it down? What happens in that case?
I'll answer the first part of the question and then turn it back to Katie for the second. Our co-developer for this is the Hudson Companies, which is a real estate developer of affordable housing in New York City. They actually acquired the site, approached the city partnered them with Project Renewal. They're not a permanent part of the project. They leave once the building is completed.
Sure. And on the housing piece, I mean, we work really hard with our clients to prepare them for housing interviews and housing opportunities. I think we spend a lot of time counseling them around their fears of a new neighborhood. Our OTs also play a crucial role in that. We will do site visits to new neighborhoods with clients. We will walk them around the neighborhood so they can get more comfortable. Ultimately, obviously, they have the choice to decline housing. And in that case, we would lean on kind of our DHS partners around next steps. In case there's any level of case conference we would want to do with that client to talk through the case further. But I think we have a really high success rate in placing our clients and placing them in places that is impactful for them.
And if I can add, I mean, I think what's critical here, and to put a finer point on, is that the clients have choice. So there's supportive housing, which is city-funded housing or state-funded, or that has supportive services in the housing. And then there is permanent housing, which most clients use city FEPS vouchers, which is the voucher similar to Section 8 that low-income people use to pay a portion of their rent. They're also ultimately responsible for the other 30% of their rent. And so they have to find apartments, right? And so just like you and I would have to find an apartment, they have to find an apartment. They're given what's called a shopping letter, and they go out into the community and find an apartment that's within the range of their voucher amount. And so most clients are working towards that goal. And so this idea that they are being placed in places they don't want to go is not really the case, because they are doing the work to find the apartments themselves with their vouchers.
Thanks.
One more. Just what's the staffing ratio or ideal staffing ratio? It seems like the things you were talking about are certainly very hands-on, which is great. It seems like it would require a lot of people. So if you have 200 people, do you have, I don't know, 5 caseworkers, 10? What's like the typical ratio for that? And the people who are pulling people out of the street to do activities, you know, those kind of staff, is that what are the numbers like for a 200-person shelter?
Sure. So we would have 8 case managers on site, as well as 4 housing counselors. We also have the team leaders as like an added level of case management. They'll take some of our more complex cases to alleviate some of the burden on our day-to-day case management work. in addition to our residential aides who we spend a lot of time training because they are there 24/7, and we really want them to be able to engage with the clients because they really see them the most and have the opportunity to build a lot of rapport with our clients.
How many aides, like how many residential aides are there?
Right now there are 15.
So, do we have, that's all, oh, did you have a question? Yeah, okay. We have people on.
Sure, Warren Porter, Chief of Staff from Gilbert's office.
Oh, I didn't see. Hi, Shula.
We have one person on who has a question. I'm just gonna promote Heather Greger real quick. Heather, when you're ready, you can unmute and ask a question.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, I actually did ask some questions in the chat, which in the question and answer section, which were not addressed. And I have a statement I'm going to read. So my name is Heather Groger, and I'm the founder of Friends of the Gertrude Ederle Playground Community Advocacy Group. We have a few hundred members, maybe about 300 at this point. It is very clear that neighborhood concerns and the safety of residents are not now, nor have they ever been a consideration to Project Renewal, the city, and all the organizations that are benefiting from the $500 million of taxpayer money fueling this project. You're placing over 200 mentally ill drug addicts in our residential neighborhood and immediately adjacent to a very well-utilized playground and many schools. Our large community organization has rallied, lobbied, and done everything in our power to challenge this project and express our grave concerns for the safety of our children. We have been met with apathy at best. More often, we have been told that our safety isn't a priority. The facts we have presented have been ignored, and we have been met with anecdotal stories of how Molly Park and Project Renewal executives feel safe walking past shelters. Be that as it may, there are many documented incidents of violent crimes, including murders in these shelters. This is a real estate deal that enriches the greedy nonprofits and private developers who don't care about mentally ill addicted people or about putting our children in harm's way. We know that this meeting is just for show, and you don't care about us, the taxpayers, parents, and New Yorkers who held the mistaken understanding that our safety mattered. We all see through this sham of a hearing and farce of a project, that when crime and drug abuse inevitably occur, Eric Rosenbaum and his board will still be paid while the shelter residents suffer from the indignity of being warehoused to perpetuate the cycle of homelessness for the profit of Project Renewal. So shame on you, and let it be known that we object to this. And I know that you're going to say you met with the element. That was not an open meeting for the community. So everyone should be aware of that when you say the element approved this. They did not. Most of their residents are on this, in my advocacy group. So thank you. And if you could also address my questions regarding secondhand smoke and how you're going to avoid having drugs on site, that'd be great. Thanks.
I'm just gonna read the two questions out real quick. The first one was, how will you address the secondhand smoke the children in the playground will be exposed to from your smoking terraces right next to the playground? And second is, how do you plan to have no drugs on site when you're housing drug addicts? This isn't a drug rehabilitation program. I'm just reading them as they're asked.
Let me first say that we don't have smoking terraces. We have terraces where people can engage in supervised activities. So, it's not like we're encouraging our clients to go out and smoke in a place. But the question about smoke is a reasonable one, so I'll ask Katie to address how we respond to that. I'll also say that there's a 20-foot wall between the courtyard before the entrance and the playground. So I'm not expecting that secondhand smoke can travel above the 20-foot wall to get into the playground terribly easily.
Sure. Thanks, Eric, and thanks for the questions. I think, specific to our clients going into the playground or loitering in front of the playground, that would absolutely be addressed by our team, both in the moment and through case management and case conferences with DHS, because it would be violating the good neighbor policy if our clients are loitering and smoking in areas that are designated for children. I think related to the question around drugs and drugs inside the building, we do have an access control procedure. As I mentioned earlier, we do have 7 guards and 1 supervisor on site 24/7. We have an x-ray machine and a magnetometer that clients are going through and are searched through as they come into the building, every time they exit and return back to the building. We also do random locker searches 3 times per shift, so up to 9 a day, to ensure that, we're staying on top of that from a safety perspective. And we have a substance use team that will continue to engage and work with our clients around their substance use challenges, because, it's part of the work that we do.
Is it true that that all the women have a history of drug involvement?
No.
There are some more questions on the Q&A, unless there are people who have questions here as well. The next question is from Akshay Madhavan. It's important for DSS to know that Project Renewal continuously I'm reading it as it's read, continuously misrepresents the amount of the community engagement they have conducted. They have not
reading very quickly and very slow.
Oh.
So could you?
Yeah, I can speak up quite louder. It's important for DSS to know that Project Renewal continuously misrepresents the amount of the community engagement they have conducted. They have not engaged with Element Condo as they claim. They do very little and put themselves on the back a lot. That doesn't seem to be a question, but if you wanted to respond to that.
We've had several meetings with members of the board of the Element Condo and with their managing agent. I think we reached out to them a couple weeks ago to set up a meeting and haven't heard back. I know that members of the condo aren't happy that we're there, but that's not for lack of engagement.
2 more questions on the Q&A. Both of them are from Michael Tellis. The first question is, have we coordinated with the NYPD, and will there be additional patrols in the area to supplement the guards?
Sorry, it took me a second to unmute. Our director of security, who couldn't join us tonight, Charles Mulhan, has been in touch with the quality of life unit there, and we will continue to collaborate and coordinate with them. We would have to defer to NYPD about the resources to do additional patrols, but we have opened up the dialogue with the precinct, and as we do at all of our sites.
The next question from Michael was, outside of engaging with residents who might be smoking and vaping in the neighborhood, is there any enforcement mechanism to stop the behavior, especially if there's smoking and vaping going on in the kids' playground?
I mean, I think it's, again, around engagement and our good neighbor policy. I don't know if DSS wants to weigh in, but there is a process if we have clients who are, frequently violating the rules and regulations of the shelter, where we may request a case conference through the Department of Homeless Services or potentially a transfer, because we do want to be good neighbors, and DHS is very supportive of that as well.
I'll also say that we do have a 24-hour number. And so if someone in the neighborhood, is seeing something happening in the moment that needs engagement, we're capable. If they call that number, we'll send someone out to engage in the moment.
And can I just add to, just to tag on with what Katie said, we work very closely with our providers. So if there is an individual that is consistently in the playground area or violating the good neighbor policy, we do reach out, the provider will reach out. We will try to engage in conference and get that person to comply. If that doesn't work, that client is subject to being transferred to another facility.
Is that an objective, like if you violate the policies 5 times, then you're out, or like, is that a subjective, how does that work in practice?
I think what happens, in the beginning, the shelter staff will engage. And we can basically tell, or the provider can tell what that engagement looks like and what that response to the engagement is, right? So if you talk to an individual and you say, hey, you signed a good neighbor policy, this is a violation. We want to make sure, if you want to smoke, that you have the terrace to smoke on, or, for whatever reason, if that person responds back and says, I'm not going to do this, and we see that it's a total lack of cooperation, they can ask to transfer. It's not I'm giving you 5 tries. It could happen in 1 try depending on how severe it is. It could happen in 2 or 3. It really depends.
Any other?
There are a couple questions. Sorry, 1 second, just trying to. So one more question was, what are we doing about noise from ambulances, etc.?
Bigger issue.
What does it have to do with this?
I'm reading the questions as they're asked.
Maybe they're expecting more ambulances.
I'm,
Well, if anyone can answer it.
yeah, if anyone can answer that question about noise from ambulances or just general noise complaints.
And what the assumption is there.
Yeah, what the assumption is there as well.
I can
There's
answer.
a hospital right there.
I can answer it. First of all, it's a problem across the west side and most of Midtown, Manhattan, and the Upper West Side. The fact that Mount Sinai has its Mount Sinai West building there are going to be many ambulances coming through. What I would suggest for the community, if it's a problem, it's probably been a problem already. And we've tried on the community board to affect change, but it seems that it's very, very difficult to achieve. Okay, and especially in the middle of the night when we've claimed that how much traffic is there, so why do you need to have sirens at a certain level? It's something that the community has to work with, but I don't think it's specific to that location in terms of the shelter, okay? And in terms of any possible thought that there would be more ambulance appearances there, my experience with 5 shelters on the west side is that it happens occasionally, but it also happens in my apartment building.
Yeah, that actually might be the opposite, that like the people in the shelter are gonna be being exposed to all that noise. So what, how are we? making
How
it
are they
better for
going
them?
to do?
Yeah, exactly.
We have one attendee who's raised their hand, Jenny Sachs. I'm just
Okay.
gonna allow,
Can you promote?
yes, I'm gonna promote her to panelist real quick. And then Jenny, once you're promoted to panelist, you can ask your question. She's not on there, I don't see her. While we're waiting for Jenny, I'll ask another question from the Q&A. The question was asked, are all the residents drug users or MICA persons? The answer was no. But what percentage of the residents are drug users or MICA persons? And it's not clear what MICA is.
Mentally ill, chemically addicted.
Thank you. Any answers for that?
I think it's really hard to predict what that will look like. I don't think we have an answer to that question, right, Eric? Or
Agree.
DHS, yeah.
Agree.
Maybe
I'm sorry, I'm having technical difficulties as well. But it's hard to answer because we don't know who's, we don't have a crystal ball to say everybody that goes in is going to have a substance. We know that they're not, just based on the demographics across our shelter system. Will there be some people that may have a substance use issue? Absolutely, just like everybody else around the world and in the community. The purpose is to have the staff engage them and to offer them services that will help them fight that battle and fight that disease.
Yeah.
All right, so before, there were a couple of times that the answer to a question was that you would transfer a resident to another shelter for various reasons. When a person is transferred from a shelter of this type to another shelter, would it be a similar type of shelter? Would it be a congregate shelter? Would it be safe haven? What's the policy of transfer for transfers?
So we won't transfer to a safe haven. Safe haven is a low demand type of shelter for people who won't come into shelter. It's a way to engage people that may be on the streets to get them to come inside where the engagement process will continue. So it won't be to a safe haven. It depends. It may go to, you may be transferred to a shelter that best meets your needs. Maybe one of the things our clients do, they're very territorial. Okay. So if they grew up in Brooklyn, they want to stay in Brooklyn and across the 5 boroughs. And some of them may not want to stay in Manhattan. And just like other, some individuals, they will act up so they can be transferred. But we will transfer a client to a site that once again can meet their needs. Maybe they need a higher level of care. Maybe they don't need a lot higher level of care. Maybe they may have mental health, but their mental health is being stabilized and that person is on medication and that person is being followed by, say, an external doctor or external agencies. DOH has ACT teams that follow some of our shelter residents, and they might want to live in a different borough. All right, so it really depends. It's hard to say.
Great. Ken, I'm also online. Do you want me to read different questions or do you want me to promote people who raise their hand?
Yeah, could you promote people if anybody is raising their hand?
Great. If you would like to ask a question, please raise your hand in Zoom and I'll promote you to speak. And please do that now. And in the meantime, there are a few more other questions. I think you've already covered the questions, so I don't think we have to read those ones. But yeah, if you're online and would like to ask a question, we're standing by to answer. Please raise your hand.
And just FYI, this is our incoming board chair, Alex Bell.
Oh.
The man behind the curtain.
Like the Wizard of Oz.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, hopefully not him.
I don't see any raised hands currently.
Okay. People who don't understand what's going on, there are people who are on who are not on the screen,
Yeah.
and they need to be promoted to the screen, but they're on a different screen.
Shula, did you have any questions?
Yeah, just listening, I think Jenny was one of the people who
Yeah.
was on.
I
got kicked off when you promoted me, but I think I've rejoined.
Yes.
Yes.
We hear you.
Okay. Can I just make a little statement or speak?
Please.
So I'm speaking as a community member. I live on 68th and Columbus, and I am very familiar with Project Renewal. I've been involved with them for a few years. I volunteer with them, and I actually have my own nonprofit that is like homeless adjacent. We work with women's shelters and provide bras to women experiencing homelessness and do bra fitting events in shelter. And Project Renewal has one other women's shelter that I did an event with last year. And I can truly say that they run a wonderful shelter. They are a wonderful organization. I'm sure there may be other organizations that, have may have things that people say about them, but Project Renewal really is made up of people who care about their clients. I have spoken with so many people, OTs, psychologists, the case managers, the directors of shelters, and they really care about their clients. And I think it's very easy as somebody not, in this world to just think, homeless people, they're going to be doing all of these bad things in my area. They're all drug addicts, as was said before. And really, these people are just humans like you and I that have come, upon, bad situations. And Project Renewal is there to get them in a safe environment to hopefully move into permanent shelter. So, like, without knowing what it is like in a women's shelter, my first event was at this Project Renewal New Providence shelter. We served 58 women in one afternoon, and that was, I think, classified the same as this will be classified. I know it was for mentally ill patients, or like people with mental illnesses, I think, were placed in that shelter. And we had a wonderful event that we worked with the Project Renewal staff and director to put on. There were no issues, there was no fighting, there was no displays of anything that one might think. I don't know what people's images are, but I think people have a lot of bad images. And most of these people have full-time jobs. They just can't afford rent if are in a minimum wage job. So I think it's easy to just qualify as other, and we don't want them in our neighborhood. But I would be happy, and I am happy that Project Renewal has built this beautiful shelter that really will help these women. So I just wanted to make that clear as a community member.
Thank you. Anybody else? Alan?
One question came in. My question regarding how many security guards will be outside facing has not been answered today or in prior calls. How many of the security guards will be outside the building in the evening and night?
Sure, I can take that. As I mentioned, the ratio is 7-1, but outside we will do patrols. There is not a security guard that is based outside. Our staff and security will do at least hourly patrols.
Okay, great. And Caroline Schwab, to answer your question or to answer anyone's question, yeah, if you have a statement as part of the public comment period, please raise your hand now and you'll be promoted and you'll be allowed to speak for 1 minute. So Caroline, you can join when you're back.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for answering my question and promoting me, and I'll make sure the other folks I know who are here to speak get the memo as well. I'm neighborhood organizer for Open Hearts Initiative. We've been big supporters of this site and have worked closely with Project Renewal for some time. I just wanted to come on and talk about what we're intending for our community support to look like. I spend quite a bit of time on the Upper West Side. My parents live there. I just moved out into Brooklyn, but I love to be back and by the site, and I miss it very much. But so what we're intending, we've been conducting quite a bit of programming at other sites, and including Project Renewal, including things like writing workshops. We put together care kits that we distribute. We drink coffee with the residents to get to know each other, really with an emphasis on creating these connections, and looking at our neighbors at this site as part of our community the same way we do for all of our neighbors. So we're really excited to get to know the residents of the 59th Street Shelter and wanted to come on here and voice our excitement to work as community members. We intend to put together a public engagement care kit event, so do some educating of neighbors around the site as well about what support can look like. We're really just hoping to fill any gaps and needs that exist at the site. And ultimately, we approach this with the understanding that communities are safer when everyone is housed and fed and has a bed, and also safer when we're all engaged as welcoming neighbors, and understand that it's our responsibility to support each other. So it means not only providing beds and food, but also creating connection to build this positive community. And I have a couple other of our volunteers on the call who are excited to express their excitement to meet and work with these folks as well. We're looking forward to a long-lasting partnership. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
Promoted two other people. If you've been promoted, you can turn on your video and unmute to ask a question or take your statement.
And if it's a statement, try to keep it within about 1 minute. Thank you.
Yeah, I can go. Yeah, good evening. My name is Garrett Colson. I'm a resident of the Upper West Side and an undergraduate student at Fordham Lincoln Center, about a block away from the 59th Street shelter. I've spent years walking around this neighborhood with friends alone in the middle of the day or in the earliest hours of the morning. And when I interact with someone on the street, I see a human being struggling. Our homeless neighbors are not a threat to us. They need help. I think of the time I saw a woman pouring what little water she had on top of her head to try and clean herself after days of sleeping on the sidewalk, or when I offered bread to another woman who had not eaten, but she could not take it because her teeth were too brittle. Can we not provide a shred of dignity to these neighbors, a place to lay their head, to brush their teeth, and to feel like they are part of our community? The 59th Street shelter provides a well-staffed facility for these neighbors and more like them, with on-site medical facilities, consistent meals, and a path to more permanent housing. The Upper West Side is not overrun with shelters, and in fact is nowhere near the top of the list of neighborhoods with the most. Further, the data shows that our safety and the safety of our children are not at risk with the new shelter. I support the 59th Street Women's Shelter, and I urge you to as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Eliza, you can go now if you keep it at 1 minute. Thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah.
I'm an Upper West Side resident also, and I've served as a nonprofit employee and volunteer for many years. Every week, one of my volunteer crews feeds thousands of homeless New Yorkers on the street. The data on homelessness and my firsthand personal experience over 7 years have shown me the abundance of kind and responsible people experiencing homelessness. The data in my firsthand experiences have also shown that these people do not present a significant safety risk. They just don't currently have the privilege of coming home to heated apartments and their own spaces. As the weather is getting colder and housing becomes so vital for everyone, I can't wait to be a good neighbor to this site. I look forward to knowing that there's a place where women can feel safe and find crucial support close to where I live. I wish all the people I serve food to had a place to go like this one. Compassion is such a great thing for all the kids and adults in our neighborhood to see. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. We promoted one last person, Alex Norbert, who is joining, and I believe that's the last comment or question.
Okay.
Hi, sorry, my camera's not working. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Hi, I'm Alex Norbert. I grew up on the Upper West Side. I still live here as a working adult. I personally have never felt unsafe as I walked myself to elementary school as early as 9 years old, as I took the bus through the Upper West Side to my middle school and the subway, as now, as a young woman, I walk through the streets alone late at night after coming home from meeting with friends. And I think it is our duty to extend that feeling of safety to those around us. And I think it is too bad that some people are taught to view those who are on the street as danger. And I'm very excited by this shelter and excited to be part of a wider community that supports it, because I want to be part of an Upper West Side that is a vibrant community that supports all those who reside in it, whether or not they have a house. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
So
That's it. That's it, Ken.
Okay. Shula, did you have any questions, or were you waiting for other people to talk?
I'm not gonna surprise someone.
Okay.
Just glad to listen.
Okay. Yeah, and I just wanted to mention that I don't know whether the people online know, but we got about 9, at least as of about 3 in the afternoon, we had 9 comments on our on the Google form that we put up a couple of weeks ago, and they were uniformly positive in support of the shelter. Let's see, what else was I going to mention? So I wanted to thank Nandita, who's a member of the committee, for doing the tech work and for most of the meeting, and thank Alex for taking over. You don't need you're not looking for a resolution from us, right? No. Right, okay. So I guess that's it for this agenda item. Really appreciate your extending your evening to present to us.
We have
We have a question. Okay, hold on.
So, sorry, not a question, just a member of the community.
Okay.
I want to say I've lived on 61st for the last 7 years. My wife is a member up at Gertrude Utterly. We were there when the protests were there, when Brewer was there. I was really concerned this wasn't going to go through, but I'm so happy to see it is. Thanks to Project Renewal, all Marshall Ford's involved in this. I really appreciate this coming to the neighborhood. I know a lot of people see the Upper West Side, it's the best neighborhood in the city, but they do it as a precious flower, right? But I think we've been blessed with such a prosperous community, and I hope we return that kindness to our fellow citizens. So thank you all for doing this work. And if you want to put one next to my apartment, I will be there sign it the first day. So thank you.
Yeah, there was one comment of a formerly homeless person who had the good luck to end up at a shelter on the Upper West Side, and she said she couldn't believe her good fortune when she found out the neighborhood that she was going to be in. So it's nice to know that 200 more people are going to have that feeling.
If there's one person who's on the west side in the Valley Lodge shelter, who became an assistant commissioner in New York City,
Wow.
an agency eventually.
Wow.
So
exactly.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much for extending your evening to present, and we look forward to hearing when the shelter's actually going to be opening. Give us a more definite date when you know it. And we also look forward to forming the CAB, Community Advisory Board, and working with you on that.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much.
Thank you all. Have a great evening.
You too.
Thank you.
That was relatively uncontroversial.
Yes.
Saralee, did you have a?
No.
I thought you had.
You guys have their business. You have new business.
Oh, yes, I have. Actually, I raised, Ken doesn't think we can do anything about it, but let me raise it again.
Yeah.
So SNAP, there will be no SNAP soon.
Yes.
And even if they resurrect it in some manner for some people, we have so many people who are not able to eat sufficiently and healthily. And from what I understand, the West Side Campaign Against Hunger can't take any new applicants. Or what are we going to do? Is there something we as a community board can do to help the people in our community beyond just saying to the people who are actually working in this area, great, you're terrific, you're doing a great job?
There are 17 sites that have food distribution or meals on the west side. I think I can get the full list. And I think we should distribute it far and wide.
Right, we can distribute it and find out what the criteria for each one of these places is. But I think if we could do something affirmative, it would, I mean, it's not much, but I think we should be hoping. And
there is a street sheet that is distributed. It does list the pantries and the services, but we could see if it's updated.
And we can also get it out because on the computer, on our phones, it's not.
No, it is an orange leaflet that's about, I just have pictures of it. And it's our church does a food pantry, and so I serve. There are many of them. Some I bet some are not at capacity, but we can maybe an outreach and understanding and seeing which ones could absorb more, which ones can't.
And
Sure.
Sure, I actually just wanted to share, as a couple months ago, we started having, just because we were having so many people come into the office who either were looking to enroll in SNAP or just having difficulty, renewing. There's an amazing social worker from WISCA, unsurprisingly, who comes into our office and literally as soon as we put out the times that they can sign up, she sits there one-on-one, she's incredible, they get snapped up.
But if they don't have SNAP, what do you?
Well, so the one I just wanted to mention though, something I learned the other day as I was chatting with her, is that for a while, WISCA did not have the capacity, but as of October 1st, they do have capacity for new, and I can also email this after Sheldon to share and to Ken. As of October 1st, they reopened at 86th Street to new customers coming in from 1019, 1069, 1023, 1024, and 1025. I think to your point, I'm sure you're also making though, is that one, emergency food is never enough, of course. And also it's going to definitely be overwhelmed, but they do right now at least have some capacity for this form of emergency food. But we would love to partner with us. We have interns working right now to try to figure out all the sites and also working with other partners too to see what the plan is for the next month to see what's happening. So we definitely can share all that information and broadcast it and make it available.
That's wonderful, for sure.
And I will share that my organization also has some additional capacity. We used to only allow people, or we used to allow people to come to our food pantry once a week. But due to the increased demand, we've changed that to once every 2 weeks. So we're able to accommodate more people, although not on the same frequency. That said, I will say that as we've noted, emergency food is obviously just a temporary solution to all this, and the government needs to reopen. So I think politics are messy, but I think that we should be calling on the government to reopen. For there to be a deal that's
Do we have hope that that will move anything? Because we have people who represent us who would be supportive of reopening, of at least getting SNAP to
SNAP
go.
and food, but not
Right,
reopening.
not
I thought I
reopening,
read that
but
the
SNAP.
state today was.
What?
I thought I read that there was going to be a patch, some relief. From the state
I will
today.
also
read
add
two
that
articles today.
the Department of Agriculture is withholding reserve funds that they
Right,
have.
right.
So it is a choice for November, but if it stretches beyond, the only solution will be for the government to reopen.
But I thought I heard that Governor Hochul
Yes.
was working on
Yes.
some program to release SNAP.
41 million
Yes.
they're
That's
releasing.
what I
but
read.
It's dropping the bucket.
I read no, and then I read yes
Yeah.
today in the patch. Yeah.
I think our concern also, we're trying to say is about people who also qualify for WIC. Additional, we use, I think often when we use SNAP, we really need both of those together, those type of programs, but for sure, your point is that. And I think also the AG is also higher.
And also HEAP, the Home Energy Assistance Program, is also not having disbursements in November.
Oh.
Should the shutdown continue. So that's pretty bad as we're heading into the colder months.
Also, a lot of people, I think, in the community want to volunteer.
Right.
And so it'd be helpful if we could publicize, maybe as a community board, where the opportunities are. I don't know whether you accept volunteers in WISCA and any of the other places. We could put a list on the website.
Good to find the weekend volunteer opportunities. I think that's a big issue. A lot of like was that you can only volunteer there during working hours. So places where you could go that are not during working hours would be helpful also, even if it's stacking boxes to.
Well, the person I'm thinking of is a retiree. So
yeah.
So maybe we can set up some sort of a chart or where you can go and when you can go and what you can get.
We can't reproduce anything because we don't need that anymore.
What's waste of paper?
We don't use paper here anymore. My understanding is.
In this
Right,
real
Alex?
Doesn't work.
It's very old.
Ironic.
Really, I don't think we have the paper, but that's okay. I'll throw in money to paper.
Right.
We'll also say grocery prices are already quite high, but this even creates a situation where they might go higher because a lot of grocers depend on SNAP dollars coming in.
Right.
And for every
Oh,
dollar
right.
that's
So they don't come in. and-
exactly. And for the grocers to maintain their revenue, they're gonna have to increase prices on the rest of us.
Yeah.
For every dollar, I think that comes in through SNAP to a local community, it generates about $9 in economic activity. So it's very destructive.
Yeah. So, on that
Thank you,
note,
that was it.
Sure.
Does anybody else have anything that they would like to raise for new business? Okay. Next month, if one of the members of the board has an idea about what he or she would like to see us
That
talk.
was our meeting the Tuesday before Thanksgiving.
Yeah, I don't.
Okay, there's one
Yeah.
possibility, if a person will do it, is the virtual urgent care program at Mount Sinai. Okay, which I attended a presentation and was very impressed how people can get that urgent, except in very, very serious things, get things taken care of by calling and.
Oh,
then
yes,
going
yes, you
online.
mentioned the
And,
telehealth.
and I've already asked them if they could come, that they're waiting a couple of days more to get an answer. But,
you asked them whether they could come here.
Yeah.
Great.
That'd be good.
Goddard has the street homeless contract for our area.
Yeah.
And I was struck by the conversation because many of the testimonials were really about street homeless. Those are not the people that will leave a shelter, and not even close. And so I think there's a number of different thoughts being and concerns being conveyed, and this might be a natural time to invite Goddard and to understand particularly about the outreach, what's going on, what the capacity is, why we're seeing more people on the street than we have in the past, and what we can do, if anything, because I loved hearing from the community, but what they are talking about is not going to be addressed by that shelter. And the shelter system and the systems that we're all talking about are very, very big, very confusing, those people who come here are not community members. And that's important, and that's okay, and they will become community members, and they will live in the Upper West Side. And also the people that they're talking about are people who live on the streets that they see that are different.
Yeah.
And so maybe we need to,
Shelley, how many safe havens are there on the Upper West Side? I know about one on the
People
83rd.
know about one. The other one, I never tell anybody where it is because people said, we want to know where it is. And it hasn't been a problem except for the first month when people were afraid 10 or more years ago. So people don't know what it is. It's not causing any serving people. And
The one on the 83rd is not causing any problems.
not easy. In fact, the three most angry people about it, being 6 months after, asked when it's opening, and it said it's been open for 6 months.
So it's such a good secret. Is it filled to capacity?
But historically, there were people who were at MS 54 for years and years and years that did not know Valley Lodge was across the street.
Exactly. Until a new principal came and said, what are we gonna do about the shelter? Okay, and I think it was Mark who said, what's the problem with the shelter? Don't create problems.
But
that
we
don't
do have
exist.
a lot of people.
I'd like to say on Goddard Riverside, they should be willing to come because it was this board that recommended them to be the Manhattan outreach people, okay, for the whole. And also, I was fortunate, was it yesterday? I'm losing track of time. Yesterday morning, they dedicated the new 107th Street building, which they introduced here a couple of years back, and it was named after Stephen Russo. And it's just beautiful, and it's an old building, probably 100-year-old building, but the front, inside, and everything they've done and made it beautiful.
We have a couple people that were on our caseload that just moved in there.
Yeah.
So we could definitely attest to that.
I know somebody who was, he was grandfathered in because he was an SRO tenant, I think starting in the eighties in that building, so.
Yeah, there were 8 people or so. I
Yeah,
think, who
right.
were, they would remain there.
Yeah, right, right.
Very often people are eased out,
Right.
but done that way.
East is a nice word.
I do want to share one more thing, and I think I brought this up meeting 2 or 3 months ago, but my synagogue, in partnership with Broadway Community, my agency, are launching a shelter together on December 1st. It's going to be the first shelter that was in a house of worship and closed after COVID, the first one to reopen since that. So it's going to be for 7 single adult men, and it's going to be people from the Upper West Side.
And can they stay during the day? Because some of those.
It'll just be overnight.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's because of this letters.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's, that needs to be changed,
What did you say?
because you have to remove them every day, or else they permanent. That's permanent.
Could happen.
Yeah, it does. So the squatter rules.
And there's also a school
Yes.
in
There's
the
plenty of
synagogue.
complexities, but yes.
Yeah.
It's really the impetus.
But this will be, pretty big signal, I think, to other houses of
Yeah.
worship that want to open shelters of their own. So if there are any places on the Upper West Side that are interested in doing that sort of thing, I think we're approaching a moment where it'll really be possible.
Are you doing, I mean, it's a pilot and are you doing?
Yeah, you could call it a pilot.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the synagogue had a shelter
Yes,
for
and it's
30 something
and-
years.
And, but post all of those changes, it's
Mhm.
coming back. And that's, 'cause I know a number of shelters that were, church-based that
Mhm.
actually closed and
Right.
have not come back.
Mhm.
And so it could be an interesting to capture
And
some data, do some outreach,
For
show
sure.
the success. show
And they'll
it's
be
working.
independent of the Department of Homeless
Yes,
Services, which,
yes.
has its flaws and has its promises.
Yes.
But
a
part
good
of the problem with the fire department got involved and they
Yes, of
decided
course.
that after all these years, nothing happening was dangerous.
Yes. Yes.
It's a great topic though, about talking about street homelessness. To get
Yes.
the idea, like a different perspective than what you just heard.
It is, because I really am, I understand what they're saying, that they are, that will make, this shelter will make no impact on what they're suggesting. And that's important for us to address. And I think we all know that there are more people on the streets now than ever in our community. And that's
Right.
for a number of different reasons. And I think we need to be able to, if Goddard saying I'm at capacity and I have 10 shifts that go out, we need to say, okay, well, when someone sees that person, are we allowed to call? And if
And
there's-
I could actually speak to this. I
Yeah,
recently started
I-
working part-time on the weekends
Yes,
for Goddard.
Yes.
So I'm not speaking on behalf of
I do
Goddard,
know
just,
some of the answers, but I know.
just my
some ones,
experience.
yeah.
I mean, a lot of people just have
Just
been
won't,
burnt.
just won't.
They've been burnt by the shelter system. They've been assaulted. They've been stolen from. They've had to deal with malicious people in the shelters, and they just feel much safer being on the streets. So
Right.
no matter how many times Goddard or the Manhattan Outreach Consortium goes out and engages those folks, some people will just be resistant.
But that's why the safe havens are so important.
Yeah.
I mean, and the congregate shelters are just problematic.
And the safe havens are not always perfect themselves. What
Right.
really is needed, I believe, and could share all my thoughts at another time, but I think there needs to be special designated shelters for specific subpopulations.
Yeah.
So there should be shelters for the elderly. There should be shelters for single adult women without mental illness or chemical dependence. There need to be, it shouldn't be a melting pot of all sorts of different issues.
I find when there's a mixture, it's better. Okay, because if you put 80 people who have drug, substance abuse issues, there's gonna be a lot of problems. We have people with various backgrounds. You have the services to deal with it, but they're not identified. This is a drug facility, and people tend to say those people are drug addicts, those people are pedophiles, those people are this, and they don't know anything about them. But if you would put one designation of an issue, a problem, on the shelf that is, oh yeah, that's for drug, for drug users.
Also, the clients themselves want to feel safe and
Right.
know that if they simply fall in hard times, that they're not going to be bothered in the space by people who might be disruptive. And I'm not saying those people don't deserve, all the dignity and respect in the world, but I personally just feel that the general shelter population, which is mainly people who have just fallen on hard times, should be in shelters for as short of a period as possible. And the experience should be as comfortable and as pleasant as possible. And it's not, from my experience, it's not always conducive when you put them in a room with people who have other disruptive behaviors.
But then you're left with some shelters that are only those people.
Right.
And what do you do?
Right.
It's
And
not fair.
And this is gonna be extremely controversial, I'm gonna say.
Yeah.
New York State had widespread deinstitutionalization in the 60s and 70s. And for some people, I think that is simply what is needed, is extensive inpatient treatment.
Yeah.
It's not compassionate. It's not responsible for a society to let people live in squalor and to wander through the subway system and intimidate others, not necessarily out of malice or bad intent, but rather out of illness that can indeed be treated. So I'm in favor of, more mental health institutions.
There should be different levels of restriction and service. That's starting with hospital beds, which still haven't been restored. And then community treatment centers where people are in the community, but they're getting more intensive treatment. And then, down to more of the shelters we're talking about, like this one. And it does disservice to many people who come out of the military, okay, with post-traumatic syndrome, and who don't have a place to go, okay, and they end up homeless. People who have been on hard times and people don't want to accept it, and they have mental health problems. The word mentally ill was used tonight. The second you say mentally ill, then the person's, you can't deal with it, okay? For people with mental health challenges, okay? And there's different levels. So once you say mentally ill, it's a serious mental illness. And I think words are very important. And I think that the level of treatment in Midtown, I forgot what it's called. People go there who have had various things, but they don't have to stay there. It's like a place to go.
They can't stay
during the day.
Drop-in.
It's like a drop-in center, and they have activities and they get services that they want, and so on. And so it's a middle ground to, being independent living. I think the different levels of service are really the answer, and of course, money.
Yeah. I'll say another thing. I'm not trying to push any sort of agenda here, but I think it's worth noting that in New York City, and this is per HPD through the Housing and Vacancy Survey, there are 400,000 vacant apartments throughout the city. 400,000 vacant apartments. So I don't know, and obviously the Upper West Side is one of the most expensive districts that there is. There are a lot of apartments that are warehoused. So if there's something we could do as a community board to tamp down on warehousing and, help move the people who have city FEPS vouchers or modest incomes into some of those affordable apartments.
Some of those are in public housing and
Yeah.
they shouldn't be.
About 6,000.
And that's really horrifying.
And in our area, uptown, Park West Village has many, and Douglas houses right across have many. They want to put up 850 unit building. Where the library is with a new library.
Right.
So I call it not a library project, I call it
is Park West Village? I thought it was a co-op by now.
It's both.
Different buildings
But
have
it's not
different
public
ownership
housing.
structures.
There's a
Oh, I know.
rental, tenant, rental, and then there's co-op.
And then
Okay.
there's the new buildings.
So when they talk about all these vacant apartments, they're rentals
Mainly the rentals.
that they're not renting because,
There
Basically,
are about 30,000 that are rent controlled or rent stabilized and that are in disrepair. And
Too expensive to repair.
correct, they're too expensive to repair and the landlords
but
are,
that's not Park West Village.
no. But there are
Yes,
30,000 like that in New York
Park West-
City.
Park West Village rental.
I'll
Are
say,
rents stabilized?
No, yeah, there
Many
might
of
be.
them.
I'll share this. I sit on the board of the Manhattan Valley Development Corporation,
Oh, okay.
which is on 107th and Columbus, so just, tippy top of the district. And they have about 800 units of permanently affordable housing. 100% of their portfolio is rent stabilized. And they are getting crushed because property taxes and water bills and utilities are, ridiculously high. And they have a number of vacant apartments. I think they have eight apartments that are in disrepair and that they cannot rehabilitate because it would cost hundreds of thousands of dollars. And they would only be able to recoup maybe $800, $900 a month on each of those apartments. They'd be taking a massive, massive loss. So
But they're still paying taxes
they're still paying
and
taxes.
water and all of that.
Yeah.
But it's also hard to fathom how it could cost so much money to renovate a particular one apartment.
Yeah.
That's mind-boggling.
Construction costs today are quite
Right.
considerable.
But it doesn't always have.
Sorry?
Doesn't always have to be construction of.
No, but I'm saying, to do basic renovation. the
Yeah,
numbers
if
that-
if a tenant,
What?
Plaster painting.
Well,
Maybe I can't have
if
it.
a tenant has lived there for 40, 50 years,
This guy does, I do some of the same stuff.
But they're a state condition and it costs, so many.
I mean, if somebody has been in the park for 30, 40, 50 years, the basic system's been outdated. So just to go in and redo the plumbing and electric and then patch and paint and all that is $50,000 to $70,000.
Yeah, but it's so.
These are real numbers. People go into co-op, spend $100,000 putting in a new kitchen, okay? So you're not gonna put a Sub-Zero in a Park West Village apartment. But with the fridges, $10,000 or $1,000, it still costs, that's there between the 70 and 100,000 kitchen.
But when the apartments are offline, you're not getting any money for those apartments forever.
But the city wants to build more and more and more housing.
It doesn't make sense.
Maybe they want to contribute to.
Right.
Preservation of existing housing is a lot cheaper, but no matter what, but it is not, I'll be very polite, it doesn't create ribbon cuts. It doesn't create headlines. It's true.
You listening, Sheila?
Yeah.
Okay?
You always are HGTV, I might get into it.
It's true.
But it also doesn't create all of this luxury housing, which the 850 units, the majority of them are going to be luxury housing, and you get, a small little amount of affordable. Well, if we're lucky, we get 20%.
Because
Very lucky.
the construction different delta between a luxury apartment and the non-luxury apartment of the same size is not that substantially different. Particularly when you're talking about a 50-story building. When you start to talk about 10, 12-story block and height building versus a high-rise building with 3 high-speed elevators and all the other stuff like a library, that's why I circulated. This is the wrong committee for this, but I circulated to a couple people in housing that you could take the library site, build what's called an R72 building. It's going to be 13 floors. You leave the library in place, take the health department down. If you have to use some of the, the light in there from the school, you can still get 200 units.
By the way, the health department does not give health services to people.
Right, it's offices.
Yeah, I know that.
It can be anywhere.
So it could be anywhere.
It's basically a processing department.
So you're saying if they put up 200 units,
You could do it too, yeah.
Right, but you wouldn't have 850 units of very
But-
small units.
And then the city of yes will be yes.
But the point of the matter is, no matter what it is the size of, this is built into the housing program, is the size of one bedroom, is the size of one bedroom, whether it's a luxury or not a luxury. It's not that different, because you can't make a 400 square foot one bedroom, except in little brown snow, I won't go there. But whether it's 550 or 650 for that one bedroom is not that radically different. And when you go all of a sudden to the 1,200 square foot one bedroom, yeah, that's a different thing, but that's not happening in this neighborhood, and it doesn't happen under City of Yes, and it doesn't happen under MIH.
If the ABC, it's gonna be 1 unit per floor.
Right, but that, I know what those units are, and that's not, but that's not what's gonna be on 100th Street, because the people who
No,
are.
of course not.
and it's
But
also
people are buying at 100th Street are different, or we're renting at 100th Street, whatever the structure is different than what's downtown.
But the other thing is that 100th Street area is the most dense part of Manhattan.
Okay.
And why would we put 850 units addition right in there?
Because they have the site.
I mean, quite honestly, nobody's gonna spend $5 million to live across the street from a fire station and a police
And a police
station.
station, right.
Review of.
with all those other building projects. What?
Because you need the police there.
No,
Right
actually,
there.
you do remember there was a murder right on 101st Street, right behind the precinct.
And
Well,
was it really?
I think we're debating,
Gone off.
we're debating another committee's,
In the middle of the day, somebody came and, yeah.
Thank you. Are we transitioning to housing right now?
yeah, yeah.
It overlaps.
But warehousing actually is something that housing should discuss.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
Yes.
that would
But
be
it's,
good.
it's actually more economical to make those, as you were saying, make the warehouse units available than it is to build new units.
Of course it is.
But there's no ribbon cutting.
Right, but that's.
Or you
And
could have
there's
a lot of.
there's no finance, and nobody makes money on the
But
mortgage.
also, there's no agita, there's no meetings that Gary Barnett has to come to and kind of say, I really believe in affordable.
I actually can't look out my office and see his affordable building, but he has an affordable building on the Lower East Side, right behind the big building.
Well, what he does is he gets a big site, he does this whole luxury, and then there's a smaller building that he makes affordable.
Right.
But if it's okay to live there.
It's
got a little
a
smarter. We
smaller-
gotta work it out.
It's small.
I know, but it's small.
Actually,
What I'm tired of is saying we're getting some affordable and we should
what
be
he's,
grateful
what he's,
for it.
well, this is the wrong committee, but what he's selling us
I'm sorry.
on ABC is not, he's trying to get rid of stuff he can't get rid of. He's giving us day old bananas.
Oh,
He's giving us what?
He's giving us day old bananas. We want fresh.
Okay.
Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
No, I agree with you.
Approved.
Okay.
He's doing,
You go down to.
And the thing is, if he just can give us a lower floor.
Ken, can you click end meeting for all? End meeting?
End meeting.
agreed,
Okay.
but actually he can't do that.
Click the end meeting button.
Thank you. It was interesting.
Yes, it was. See you next time.
Okay.
Not the day, not the day. Thank you. The election.
Okay.
Where do I find it, Alex?
Bottom right, end meeting for all.
But he doesn't look at the time.
Okay.
You want it back into the photo? Because I'm happy to see it.
Picture of your business card also. I have someone that.
I just-
Okay. Yeah, perfect. I have someone that would be great.